Good morning, everyone. I should start off by thanking the HEAL, the local organizers, especially Dr. Soman sir, for giving me this invite and giving me this chance to come and have a chat with all of you. Before we start, I am what they call in the sporting parlance as a sub. All of you know what a sub is, isn't it? Really not good enough to be in the first 11, but they all stand in the sidelines and clap and cheer, and someone backs out, then the sub is good enough to come in. But it's not a good thought to be to be called a sub. So if you know cricket, in the olden days there used to be what's called a super sub, who would fit in and slot in anywhere at any position they want, and you're supposed to be better than one player. So just for my satisfaction, probably I would call myself a super sub rather than as an ordinary sub. Unfortunately, one of the faculty had to back out at the last minute, so I was pitchforked in at the last minute. I had a look at my talk literally 5 minutes back. If there's any omissions, anything that is not good enough, please forgive me. Right, with that word, we will kick on, and I'll tell you in the next 20-25 minutes what health tourism is, what it's all about, how do we go on carrying it out, and what not. The word health tourism is self-explanatory. It says that, patients come across from faraway places to get treated. But the contrary is also true. The vice versa is true in the sense that it also implies healthcare providers traveling across borders to provide healthcare. It's not just the patients who travel across. Healthcare providers can also travel borders to deliver this. And anybody and everybody who is in any way linked with health tourism should know this particular name, Brahmangrant from Thailand. This is the Mecca, the gold standard of healthcare, and everybody else who is trying to ape or do health tourism in any way is trying to catch up with them and at least be a fraction of what they are trying to be. So anybody who wants to deliver, who thinks about health tourism, should look up at least the website in Brahmangrant and see what they're doing and try and see how close we can get. It's impossible to get to be equal to them in the short term because they have been at this for a long time and they have set the bar standards much higher. So this is something that we need to know about. Right. Everything has a history. Health tourism also has a history. Nothing new. In the olden days, healthcare, the cure, the treatment was delivered by the Almighty. So what do? Something that cannot be cured locally, people went to where the Almighty was, visited him and prayed him to be cured. So that is the origin of health tourism. And once the Almighty went out of fashion, the next thing was the nature, the health spas, the wonderful air, the clean air they used to call it. And the cleanest air of all was in Switzerland. Don't know why, but that's how it is supposed to be. And so what happens? People travel to the spas, the sanatorium, the resorts, in the hope that these areas would cure them because nothing better was available. And to a large extent, it was to a large extent satisfactory. But obviously, it's not going to be very popular because the distances that need to be covered are huge. And those days, flights were at a premium, they probably did not exist, and people would find it difficult to cover that sort of areas, and there was no need to spread info, and you never knew what you would get at the end of it when you got there. It's not very popular, but that is the best that is available, and health tourism did exist in those days as well. Right. In the recent past, maybe 18th, 19th, 20th centuries, the West made great leap with healthcare. The doctors, the setup, the quality of delivery, the health care itself are hugely better than what is available in the East. So what is done? People with supposedly incurable diseases or bad diseases which could not be tackled locally went abroad to the West from the East to attain succor or cure. But the cost is exorbitant, as you can imagine, and only the not the super sub, but the super rich could afford that kind of care, and only the very few minority from the top bracket of the society could afford to go there and get this sort of treatment done. Now, in our generation, in our times, things have turned topsy-turvy. It's a huge difference from what existed before. The gap between the healthcare delivery, where it be healthcare professionals, infrastructure, doctors, standard of healthcare, whatever, have narrowed, and I would say even now our standards have probably overtaken the West in whatever way. If you look at the quality of doctors, nurses, infrastructure, hospitals, what we deliver is probably on par, if not better, than what is delivered in the West. Said that. And the good thing is that we deliver better quality healthcare in every sense, and the mantra here is at a fraction of what it would cost them to have this done in the West. So this is what makes healthcare viable. And brings us to why is health tourism happening? Why, a few years back, that term did not exist. Why is this term such a big buzz around the world now? And why is this a viable option? First thing is incredibly huge cost of surgery in the West. Anywhere, Europe, US, America, wherever. Because in the West, if you don't have medical insurance, you are sunk. The private hospitals are the state-of-the-art, cutting-edge medical hospitals, and if you go there with a good, valid insurance card, you probably get the best treatment available. But if you don't have insurance, then you're sunk. You're shunted to a government hospital where you would not even take your cat to be treated. I mean, this is no exaggeration. I've seen how it is, and I've seen how it's delivered. So even with, and you would say, here, if we take a comprehensive insurance policy, everything would be covered. But when I was there, I discovered a new meaning for the word comprehensive. Comprehensive does not mean that everything is covered. You would take a comprehensive policy and find that half the things are not covered, and you still have to pay for it. And this is where the problem is. Okay, this is the crux slide. If you forget every other slide in my talk and you remember only this, then you will understand why is this topic so important. Why is this so popular? Why is this so relevant now? If you look at it from top to bottom, a facelift costs around $20,000 in the US. We can do it for less than 10% of the cost. At a better level, better standard, better care, better quality we can provide. And this is where this becomes such a viable option. And if you look way down the list, look at the dental procedures, the eye, the liver transplant, the heart valves, heart bypass, etc., etc. A minuscule fraction of what it would cost to be done in the West, better quality and better care can be delivered in our centers with a fraction of the cost. And that is why this has become such a hit. Right. The next, it's not just the money alone. Next problem is that even if you have a valid card or you are on the wait list to have this done, the waiting times are humongous. For example, if you have an inguinal hernia, if you are on the NHS waiting list, it's going to take anywhere between 18 to 24 months to have a simple inguinal hernia done. And you can imagine the morbidity and the problem if you're a person who's doing physical work to go around with a hernia like that for 2 years. 2 years is a long time. And if you can come over, this is an example, if you can come over here and get it done at a fraction of the cost, with better care, why not? What is preventing us? Because people are not aware this is possible. And if they are aware this is possible, I'm sure there will be many, many more takers than what we have now. So waiting list of 18 months, so many amounts of patients waited for 3 to 6 months to have this. And I told you a fraction of the cost. Everybody would like to visit the East, the exotic East. Every person in the West would like to come over and experience what we have to offer in terms of nature, in terms of adventure sports, in terms of breathe the air of the East. And this can be added on as part of the package. You come here and whatever saving you make on your treatment that you're going to give in the West anyway can be spent to have a holiday of a lifetime with a family. And this is the package that needs to be sent across, and this is the package that is going to sell. Now, international travel is very easy. Technology standards are better. The medical system, most patients, most doctors, most infrastructures probably on par. They have all the Western qualifications like JCI, NABH, or whatever. Doctors are Western qualification. So whoever or whatever treats you in the West, the same thing would be treating you here as well. And this is the thing, doctors, nurses, and infrastructure. on par or better, fraction of the cost. And language now is no barrier because everybody in India speaks English anyway. It's absolutely no problem whatsoever. And what are the implications? From the US, what people coming over are going to jump 10 times in the next decade. The point is who is going to get this 10 times. And this is where we need to be upfront at the beginning, at the forefront, try and make sure that we tap this potential. So there's a 750,000 went abroad, and there's going to be jumping 10 times in the next 10 years. So that is where the implications are, and that is the numbers that we're talking about. Right. What are the procedures that come under health tourism? Emergency procedures, probably there will not be enough time, or the logistics probably would not be right for them to travel across continents to get emergency care. But basically elective patients and semi-elective patients that would come over. Cosmetic surgery tops the list. I'm not being prejudiced when I say this, but it's an actual fact. Cosmetic surgery does top the list. Then dental, joint replacement, and cardiac. That is the line of priority that is delivered. Okay, cosmetic surgery, what all can you do? You can change anything, from the scalp down the toe, and anything in between can be changed. I mean, realistically, most things can be changed. But these are the procedures that we do. And the dental procedures, don't ask me too much about it, but these are the things that can be delivered. And okay, so what happens? The standard procedure, there are a lot of limitations in the standard procedure. Initially, I'll tell you what exactly happens in real life, and next I'll tell you what the negative points of that is and how we can tackle that and surmount these problems. Okay, usually there's a health tourism agent somewhere in the West or in the Middle East who advertises, or sometimes the hospital advertises straight away. And the patient sends over a medical report either by fax or email or WhatsApp or Skype or whatever, and there's a virtual consultation online, and the money, etc., are given, then the bonds are signed, and the patient comes over, and treatment is given. So the standard thing is that the patient receives quality, affordable care from internationally trained doctors in a relaxing atmosphere. Wonderful, great, the best things in sliced bread, no doubt about it. But if that really is so, definitely not. There's a many a slip between the cup and the lip, and there are a lot of problems if you deliver the health tourism in this particular manner. Right. Now, what are the problems that we face? Obviously, nobody in the West likes health tourism because they are losing their clientele, and because they're coming over here, it's like an outsourcing. Nobody in the West wants to outsource anything because it's hitting their revenue, their income. And rightly or wrongly, they have made extensive publications in medical journals, in the press, in the telly, in the internet, wherever they can, about how bad health tourism is and how risky it is, because they don't want to lose their clientele or their revenue. And if we want to play it the right way, we should have answers ready-made for all these allegations, which are partly true, that they raise. And we should be aware of what the allegations are, we should be aware of what the limiting factors are, and we should be able to surmount them. And unless and until we do that, this is not going to be a success. So what they say is that, okay, the doctors who go there are all quacks in the East, they are not trained, they are not qualified, etc., etc., etc. And cosmetic surgeons, they do cosmetic surgery in shacks, in one room, in a theater which opens out into a toilet. I mean, this is what they say. And sometimes it's not untrue what they say, because there are no standards set by the government to make sure that cosmetic surgery or any other surgery should be done with a minimum of infrastructure. Nothing, nobody says anything. Anybody can do cosmetic surgery. And the point is, who a cosmetic surgeon is still open to air. Everybody and anybody is a cosmetic surgeon. So all these are problems. And there are problems to a large extent. In standard hospitals, in good hospitals, delivered by good trained professionals is not a problem. But a person sitting in the West, how do you know who it is, what it is, who is going to treat, what the infrastructure is? Very, very difficult to know. And these are where the problems are. So what will they say? They say that if you have a problem, the legal system in the East is absolutely abominable. You will not get any redressal. Again, that is to a large extent true. And these are all the scaremongers that are going on. And there is a problem, you have to come back immediately, and the hospital will not take it. They'll just wash their hands of you. These are the other risks, the problems that. And they say that, okay, you get treated somewhere else. Where is the follow-up? What do? You come back, you have a problem, then what? You're sunk. Nobody is going to touch you. And then what? So you should not go. And they say, again, other problems are, you go long distances, there are exotic diseases, there are flight problems, you go there with a cosmetic problem, you're going to come back with malaria or whatnot. So that's the other scaremongering that's going on. So what they say is that medical tourism is not a guaranteed option. You are in a strange environment, a risky environment, and you should do a thorough check of everything before you go. And it's reasonable, it's not unreasonable. When they say this, the motive could be different, because they don't want to lose it. But all that what they say to a large extent is true. And unless we are able to disprove these myths or these allegations or the scaremongering that people throw at us in the West, we are not going to make a success of it. So we should be aware of all this. And now then, lately what they do, they touch the heart core of the people who are coming over. They say that if you go to the West, some poor guy who's starving will have to give up his kidney at a very low amount to give you, because they are starving and they take this kidney to give the rich people. And they say that, because of Thailand health tourism is so much, the doctors do not treat the local patients, and local people are all dying of sickness, because they are all treating the rich and the classy people that come from the West. And these are all things that are thrown around. So for the advice that is put up on websites, put up on the professional magazines, on commercial magazines, is that you should do a research where you go. You should make sure the hospital is standard, make sure the doctors are standard, and you should make sure that you read blogs from people who have been there before. And unless and until you do that, it's not a good idea to go across. So they say look at it very, very, very critically before you go. Make sure you get your vaccinations done and whatnot. And now there are agencies who do the research for them and will tell them what sort of hospital it is, what sort of doctor it is, and what are the experience of the previous people who have come across. Okay, hospital. First thing is, obviously, JCA is the gold standard. If you have JCA, well and good. If not, there are other grading organizations like NABH, ISO, and FRIEND. So unless you have some sort of a standard by this setup, by this organization, then your credibility is not going to be very high. Why is your organization not accredited by anything is a question that you will find very difficult to answer. So, the hospitals now are looking for a lot of accreditation to make sure that the local crowd, the Asian crowd, and the Western crowd have some confidence in them. The next thing is, they all want to know what the doctor is. Is he qualified plastic, cosmetic surgeon? Is he a qualified dental surgeon? Is he a qualified cardiac surgeon? And now they are saying what the step ladder that is in the training, and unless they say that unless you are on a specialist register, or you are on a register in the UK or the US and the West qualified to do cosmetic surgery, you should not go to that particular person. Again, quite rightly, in the UK, you have got a specialist register with an exit exam in plastic surgery, and unless you are on both these, you are not allowed to do cosmetic surgery there. In the US also the same thing. So they are publishing this now, for the doctors also need to be on their toes to make sure they got the necessary qualifications, and the hospital, of course, need to make sure that they're credible. And there are associations that provide information regarding all this. Right. Now, there is, you can talk about all this, but unless you actually tell you how to do this, there is no point giving you all this theory. The standard thing, as I told you, is you tie up with health tourism abroad, and you sell the reputation of the doctor and the infrastructure, and put out advertisements either in the media, the press, the radio, tele, or whatever, and the interested parties will contact the agent, and a medical report would be provided. And online, a virtual consultation is done, phone call, email, etc. A chat is done, and you make sure that the consent bonds are signed and the amount is agreed, whatever, and the patient comes over and you get the surgery done. Sounds very simple, but it's potentially a catastrophic situation, and it's because this particular game plan is followed to the T that health tourism has got such a bad name. If you look at the net, you see things like, I went abroad and the doctor butchered me. Or people say, I went across and the doctor was a butcher. I can hear horrific scenes time and time again. on the internet and wherever you look. That's because there has not been any proper pre-planning before the procedure is actually carried out. So what's the problem with this? The problem is that the surgeon and the doctor and the patient have never met face to face. They meet face to face when they come across to come to the hospital, and you are committed to operating on them on the next day, come what may. You get pictures, etc., but it is never as good as examining the patient and talking to the patient establishes a rapport. And when the patient comes over, the surgeon would think that he would be providing so much, and the patient would be expecting something 100 times more than what he can deliver. So there's a huge discrepancy between the expectation of the patient and what the surgeon can actually deliver. And the mantra is that dissatisfaction and quotes come in not because of bad surgery, but because of bad communication. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And here you hardly met the patient. The patient has hardly met you. And your consultation is the day before the surgery where you have hardly time to discover anything. And where is this communication going to happen? And if this is practice, bad communication is ingrained in the process, and dissatisfaction and litigation happens again and again and again and again. So ideally, you should meet the patient much beforehand and have a thorough one-to-one with him or her before the patient comes over. And to have this happen, you should be prepared to go to where the patients are going to come from, have an intimate, lengthy discussion with them before you come over. And the feeding areas are where? Europe and the Middle East. And why is there such a reluctance to go and cut across and cut short all these problems? Two things. The first thing is to go across, it is the monetary factor, and the other thing is the necessary training and degrees to able to have a consultation in the Middle East or the West. To look at the logistics, going to the Middle East is nothing. It's, you can travel to Middle East cheaper than going to Delhi or Calcutta from Kerala, realistically. And even if you go to Europe, it's not a huge amount. And if you're playing with the big boys, these are all minuscule amounts if you want to play in the big league. Plus, you need to make sure that you are legally eligible to at least have a consultation in these areas. Don't go there and sit in a shack and do something. So it's always better to go there, have a one-to-one, face-to-face with the patient, and convince them that it would be better to come over. Otherwise, you land up in big quagmire, and it's a downhill slope from then on. Okay. Now, I've been doing this for a significant amount of time, and I'll tell you how I personally do this. As I said, we have got partners abroad, Middle East and Europe, and they advertise in the local market for us, and when there's a sufficient amount of patients, we go across, and what do? We do this legit, legally. The patient who comes to see me gets the same experience, goes through the same process as he would go through in seeing a local doctor. There's absolutely no difference whatsoever. We hire a clinic in a reputed hospital or a GP or in a GP, and you get a good receptionist waiting there with a good waiting area and really professional, nothing quacky or cutting corners or whatever. And again, when they meet you, you should be presentable. You should look like a proper doctor, and you should be talking their lingo, a language that they would understand. I'm not just talking about talking English, but they should talk in such a way that infuses confidence in them. And who are the patients who are going to come across? The rich lords, duchesses, and the snooty upper class are not going to come across, because they have enough and more money to get treatment in their own country, and they will never come across to the big bad East to get treated. The people who are going to come across is that crowd, the middle class and upper middle class and probably the middle class, who cannot afford to have treatment done in their own country because they don't have enough money, and they're coming across because that's the only way they can get it done. But because they are coming for this particular reason, they all come with a chip on their shoulder saying that, oh, we are forced to go there because we are probably not good enough or whatever. So they all come with a complex, and when you have complex, trivial issues tend to get blown out of proportion. And this is something that we should be careful about. There is no point saying that patient is coming, that's complaining without any reason. It is stupid complaint, whatever. If you want to play this game, the thing that you have to remember is the patient is always right. Even if the patient is wrong, the patient is still right. And unless you are prepared to accept this and carry it out through, then you cannot play this game. Okay, and then the patient comes and sees you in this clinic, having gone through a good waiting area with a receptionist, looks legal, legit, etc. And the consultation, the first half of the consultation is about you. It's like facing an exam. They all come and ask you, who are you? What are you? Where are you? Why do you call yourself a cosmetic surgeon? Where do you practice? Where do you learn? Where do you train? And you should be prepared to give all this. Why you are sitting there pretending to be a cosmetic surgeon, what your training was, what your repertoire is, etc., etc. Next question is, where are you going to treat us? Where is the hospital? What is going to happen? And so, two things. I open up the website. I sit there with an internet connection, with a laptop, open up the website and say, this is our hospital. This is our hospital. And these are the things that we are able to provide. These are the specialists we have. These are the infrastructure we have. These are the facilities that we provide. If this worse or secondary to any hospital that you see here, then don't come across. But I assure you that this is on par with anything. And then, obviously, in the West, the good thing is that all your training, all your qualifications are there for everybody to watch. In the UK, the General Medical Council, you open up the website, you say, check a doctor's status. Anybody can check doctor. So I open up the GMC, show them, my qualifications are this, whatever, and I am eligible to work as a consultant there. So the questions end there. And this is the confidence that you should be able to instill in them. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then, after all this, then you start talking about the surgery. You sit there face-to-face with the patient, examine the patient, tell them everything. The pre-op, the surgical procedure, what is it that you're going to get, and most importantly, what are the things that can go wrong. This is something that should be emphasized to the patient. You might lose one or two patients, but that's fair and fine enough, no problem. But all the patients that come across eventually should end up happy. That is what should be aiming for. So you should be, though you don't have to scare them off, but be realistic about it and tell them, be honest about the potential complications that can occur. And that, I think, as a qualified professional surgeon, we are entitled and we should always be telling them that. I don't talk money with them. My agent will be sitting next door, and as soon as the discussion is, the professional consultation is over, the financial part come in, I say, I'm sorry, I don't talk about the money. There's my partner sitting next door, will talk to you everything about it. They go next door, they discuss the cost, the dates, the tickets, visa, all these things the agent arranges for them. So I don't lose my stature, I don't lose my status by coming down and haggling with the patient. I am professional, I talk to them only about the professional part, and all this haggling and whatever is done next door with them, and I have no part about it, and I don't lose the confidence that they have in me. And of course, you come back, and then all these virtual consultations start. But the point is, they have seen you, they have interviewed you, you have interviewed them, the confidence factor is already there, and the rest of the things can be tackled over this. And then, over the period of maybe a few weeks or months, etc., you talk to them and you prepare them mentally for the visit. You tell them, don't worry, you land up at the airport, there will be somebody waiting there to take care of you until you board the return flight. You are in our safe hands, nothing is going to go wrong. And you prepare them mentally for the visit, and there are two things that I specifically prepare them. When somebody comes across in the West to our part of the country, there are two things that hit them. The first thing that hit them is the number of people that they face. Obviously, our population is huge, and if you walk in the streets, you will never see that kind of a rush. And they'll say, gosh, so many people. And that really amazes them. And the next thing is the ride from the Karipur airport, the local airport, or those of you who come from the local airport at BMH. And the roads are abominable, and the drive is risking your life. So these are the two things that I tell them. I tell them right and early, now when you come to the airport, there will be a huge crowd waiting to greet you. They say, really? Maybe it's not to greet you specifically, but there will be a huge crowd, because they are glad that you're coming. It's a joke. But they are mentally prepared for the huge crowd. And the next thing that I tell them is that, it's going to be very sporting, it's going to be very adventurous, the drive from the airport to the hospital. I sit back, fasten your seatbelt, and enjoy the drive. So it's already there, imprinted in their brain, and they're not shocked anymore. And they come across and say, yeah, what you said is right, doc. It was a bit interesting, wasn't it, the drive? Otherwise, what would they say? They say, what a horrible drive, I nearly got killed. There are huge huge difference in the way they look at it because it's already been put in their mind. I mean, there are small things, but it all adds up and makes a significant difference to the outcome. Okay, once they come here, what? You pull out all the stops. It's like Narendra Modi coming to BMH. That's what we deliver for them. You know, a special wing, very posh, curtains, plush, whatever, and you give them a welcome pack. As soon as they come, take a photograph, email it to the relatives, make sure they are all here. Take a photo of the room also and send it to make sure they're not in a cow shed or a cow hanger or whatever. They're given a local SIM and an internet card because immediately they are on the net. They can contact anybody they want. They also can be contacted. And they are made to feel at home, provide an English-speaking chaperone. We have arrangement with a local hotel, which provides them with authentic Western food at the ring of a button. But having said that, from day 2, they all switch on to Eastern cuisine. But if they want Western food, it's available. So that's one less thing they have to crib about. And we got somebody to take them out shopping, and if they're well enough, they can go to one of the resorts and spend some time and then come back to us or whatever. And all tests, accepting the x-rays, every single thing is done in the room. All the doctors come there, look after them. A personal number of the PRO is given so that they can contact them with any problem. And after all this, then I make in my grand sort of appearance, last minute, and I come in, hey, remember me, we met in Leicester or in Sheffield or wherever, this is me. They of course, doctor, come and hug me and all that because they're happy by them. Because they think they've been treated well. They're confident they're going to get a good service. And then at the end, I also give them my personal number, which is never ever done. No doctor in the West ever gives the personal number to the patient. And they'll say, oh, what a wonderful chap. He's given me my personal number. He must like me so much. By the time the battle is over, it doesn't matter what happens in the surgery. Realistically, they are your friends already, and they'll be willing to forgive and forget anything. Okay, and then surgery comes, good pre-med the night before because they sleep well and taken to theater early so that they don't travel with the crowd or the early morning traffic, and then the surgery is carried out. Everybody thinks that cosmetic surgery is what? Surgery. Surgery is the be-all and end-all of cosmetic surgery. And if you look at the whole scenario that I've enumerated now, surgery is such a minuscule part in the whole process. And even if you're doing the best possible surgery in the world, the patient is still going to end up extremely unhappy if all these other things are not carried out. So I said, by this time, this is just a small thing. And obviously you need to deliver, otherwise you shouldn't be doing the job anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, this is just a part of the whole jigsaw, probably the central piece of the jigsaw, which the jigsaw would not be complete without the central jigsaw of the surgery, but it's just one piece of the jigsaw. And unless all the other parts of the jigsaw fits in, it's not going to give you this wonderful picture. And it's your responsibility, your job, to make sure that all parts of the jigsaw do fit in. And then post-op, individual cubicle where he or she is not troubled, make sure that absolutely no pain whatsoever, one-to-one nursing care, and I go in and see them once in a while, and my trainee even also to make sure, inquire everything is fine. Relatives are kept. One German lady came with a son, a teenager. And on Sunday I had to take him out and play basketball in the club because he was getting so bored. I was playing tennis there anyway, but I did take him out. These are all things that do make. And then finally, if they are well enough, they can go to a local resort, do a bit of sightseeing, etc., before they go back. Right. The day before they go back, I make it a point that I personally take them out for dinner and buy them a meal. And Calicut, even if you go to the most costliest restaurant in Calicut, it'll cost you only so much and not further than that. So there's a limit beyond which things can go. So that's all that taken into account. And at the end of it, I hug them and kiss them goodbye. In a job, there is a salary and there are perks. So these are the perks that I get at the end of all this work. Yeah, but the point is, every time they leave, they are my personal friends. And the small things that happen or does not happen, the small niggles, the small imperfections, whatever is easily ignored. It's never a problem. Touch wood, God's grace, I've had not one patient complain. Not because I've been wonderful or perfect or whatever, because they were my personal friends by the time they left. And would you complain about your friend? Would you, nitpick about your friend? No. But if you're an enemy, anything small would become a big problem. And that's why if it's a jigsaw and all the parts would need to fit in. Okay, what all can you do? I mean, the simple thing, blepharoplasty, you can make the upper lid look better. Rhinoplasty, you can make the nose look better. Otoplasty is a prominent ear, you can make the ear spin back. Look at the facelift, 20 years straight off, 20 years younger. Tummy is not only for ladies, guys can also have this. Breasts, small breasts can be made bigger. Big breasts can be made smaller. If you have mass cancer, mastectomy, you can make a new breast for the patient. Liposuctions, etc., 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 etc. This is what I do, but the same thing goes for dental, cardiac, replacements, joint replacements, and whatever else comes through the door. Right. The implications are huge. This is not health tourism, probably the tourism. The third biggest growth of foreign exchange. And so much of revenue, so much of jobs are being generated, and all this tourism can be translated into health tourism also. And we're talking about huge numbers, huge amounts of money, but are we doing enough? Definitely not. We are just tapping the tip of the iceberg. The huge big iceberg is below the water for us to take. Are we making an effort to take it? Definitely not. We are not. We are just sitting on it, saying, no, whoever comes across, let them come across, and then we will take it from there. Lots more we can do. We can make Kerala a brand. God's own country. Everybody knows. God's own country. But it's just for the tourism. We can make Kerala a trademark for health tourism, or we can make India a trademark for health tourism, because it's a national contract. I shouldn't keep on saying Kerala. I'm sorry about it. It's a national framework. So, okay, we should make India a trademark, brand India. We should make sure that there's aggressive marketing. All these details. All the big players should come together, share the resources, and market aggressively as partners. There is enough for everybody. There is no need to compete. There's enough and more if we do it together. There's enough and more for everybody. And together we stand, the more stronger we can be, and the farther we can reach. So that is what we should be looking at. We should have front offices everywhere. Tourism has got front offices everywhere. Health tourism should also have front offices everywhere. And we should give details of what is available. Special attractive packages, special chartered flights, and these are all things that are going to change. And if at the end of it, we can even collect data of the uninsured patients or people on the waiting list and mail them and write to them and saying, you don't have to wait such a long time. You don't have to pay such a big thing. Just come to us and we'll take care of you. And that would be the ultimate thing that should be aiming about. And what? The infrastructure should be provided. The human resource should be there. People are trained to do health tourism, not only the doctors, but the support staff. We probably could have a good idea having a course on health tourism. Train people just to do health tourism would be probably a good idea to do that. So what is it that we should be aiming across? UK, USA, Canada, etc., 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 on an ambulance, all the way to India, to us. That's what should be aiming at. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna Kumar. Now, Dr. Kumar will take any questions that the audience may have.
Mike.
Good morning, sir. Any registration process for this for an hospital? We are doing an international medical tourism. As per the state norms, there is some registration process. No? Can you explain about that registration process, sir? Whether the hospital need to register?
These patients who come for medical treatment ideally should come on a medical visa, not on a tourist visa.
Okay.
If they come on a tourist visa, then we have to convert it into a medical visa. You have to inform the FRO. So we have to, those registration things should be done. That is a legal requirement.
Okay. For an hospital starting in medical tourism, they have to register in a state government, or it is not necessary?
No, not necessary.
Okay. The second thing is how to select the area. Which area we can concentrate about that medical tourism? Because most of the
are you talking about the services that we're going to give, or the population we're going to target?
marketing for them.
See, the whole world is yours if you can
Yes,
deliver
but
it. So it all depends on where you have got your base, where you can. So if you want to send across a cardiologist, you're a cardiologist. Does he have a license in the Middle East? Does he have a license to practice in the West, UK or US or wherever? Do you have health tourism partners in the UK or US? Or is it better to do in the Middle East? So it's a logistics that you will look at.
Most of the hospital, they are considering Nigeria, Oman. Why not it may be in UK, Canada, or in US or what?
As I said, the whole world is there. It's open for you. It does not mean that we have no tie-up in Africa till now. That's why I didn't concentrate on. Yes, Africa has got a huge potential. They all go to UK or US to get treatment. But the thing is about Africa, it's like practicing in Asia. The things are a bit hazy. The rules are a bit hazy. You have to grease lots of palms to get things done. So it's not very straightforward. You have to play the game. But if you're in the Middle East or in the West, it's all very straightforward. There's no confusion. But if you go to Africa, you have to play the game their way. And we are sort of making small inroads. I've been to Kenya and Nigeria recently, so I know things work. The government will give a grant to the patients to come across. The problem is that the government machinery will need to be greased by the patient and probably by you also if you want them to grant them the grant. So that is why it's not been a very favorite destination. But if you're prepared to play the game their way, then yes, it's a huge potential market, Africa. Yes, it is.
The next is, the challenges what we are facing in the hospital is food. The patient from the southeast and other area, they need certain foods that is not available in our hospital.
Why?
Because the canteen and other facilities. There is a challenges we are facing. I'm not asking for the suggestions, so it is a challenges we are facing.
That is something, it's not a big deal. That is something you should be able to provide. These are the small things that count. And you should give it. So giving them food is not a big deal if we look at the whole scenario.
The another one is IMRB. Now they are telling IMRB is we have to register an IMRB, then you can get patients from the international patients, we can receive the international. Any idea about the IMRB, whether we need to register in the IMRB or spec?
Sir? No clue, sorry.
Okay. Then few hospital is getting a halal certificate. Halal certificate. They're showing in the website, it's about a halal certificate for an international patients. Like an example, Frontier Lifeline, Global, they have got a halal certificate. In their website, they issue that we are getting a halal certificate for the Saudi patient. We can come here and get a good type of food. Any other? Yeah, any.
Food is going to be halal, okay.
Okay. That's also they are using as a promotional activities.
Yeah, I'm sure it counts.
Halal is, for those who don't know, it's meat that
Yes.
is cut in a Islamic way.
Yes,
It's
sir.
called halal. And if you provide that food, you get a certification. So it may attract Arab patients.
It's a marketing
not
tool.
Necessary. Here we have so many Arab patients, we don't necessarily have to have that.
But it's one type of marketing tool they are using there.
That's true.
Now, Dr. Krishna Kumar will be presented with a memento from Dr. Shakti Kumar Gupta. May I call on stage Dr. Gupta to present a memento to Dr. Kumar.